We want to start off with a reminder that we are not doctors. Before you make any changes or try something new, always consult with your doctor and medical team first. Chronic illness can vary from patient to patient, so it's always best to consult with your own doctor for what is best for you.
Hello, welcome to I Be Determined. I'm your host, Mason Harvey, and I have Crohn's disease, and I speak from the role of patient.
And I'm Michelle Harvey. I'm Mason's mom, and I speak from the role of a caregiver. And today's topic was one we thought of when we were talking last week, I think it was. So today's topic is going to be, what is remission?
And the different fun little facts
Yeah.
no one really knows about it.
Yeah. And, we always like to point out that we're not doctors.
No, we're not
scientists.
doctors.
And so
we're just researchers.
Yeah, we research other people's research.
Yes,
research. We're researchers of research.
We research people who research, and it's good sites only.
Yeah, that's
trustworthy sites.
But what we do, and like for this episode, we compared. So we're going to use two sites for this one. It can get way more complicated because there's a lot of different sites that are helpful, but we use two and we compare them and make sure that the doctors who wrote those articles are in agreement with each other before we start sharing.
No, this isn't right. Well, I mean, that is.
Yeah.
No.
Make sure that there's no arguing. Yeah.
Make sure everything's correct and it's double checked.
Yeah. So the thing with remission that most of us are familiar with is when you talk about something like cancer. And for me, I had heard remission when people would get to the end of their treatments with cancer.
They'd
to
ring the bell,
and they were healed.
Treatments.
Yeah. And so it was like, okay, so remission is like a goal because you're essentially cured is what I thought. And probably what you thought.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Probably a lot of other people thought too.
Yeah. So that was kind of the only time we'd really heard about remission. So when Mason was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, this word remission popped up.
My doctor said, once you get out of the hospital, you'll be in remission or whatever, kind of like you'll start going into remission. I was like, oh, does that mean I won't have to take shots or infusions or pills? No. For Crohn's disease, remission, you still have to take shots and infusions and pills, but you don't have those symptoms that can do damage or hurt you.
Yeah.
So at the time, I was like,
yeah, we thought like he'd get to like ring a bell. He'd be done with treatments and he moves on.
I just wanted to get off the shot and the infusion. I didn't like those at the time.
No, you didn't. So he was very upset when he found out what remission meant. And to be honest, so did I, because I wasn't exactly clear. I remember thinking,
oh, there's an end to this.
Yeah, like maybe you take these for about a year. You have to go through this, and then once you go into remission, it's done. And if it comes back, then you just go back and take that again. And it was actually kind of heartbreaking to realize that remission just meant like an absence of symptoms, and it didn't mean he could
all the infusions and shots and painful little things like that.
Yeah, that was the kind of stuff and the stuff that you didn't want to have to do.
And it could, and Crohn's disease, a flare, which you get out of when you're in remission, a flare could always come back. So you're not safe from it.
Right. It's like you may have periods of remission where you're feeling well, but then
it
could come back. And so, because that was also one of our questions, can you flare when you're in remission? Are you, so we essentially found out that remission is temporary with Crohn's. Sometimes it can last for quite a long time for someone. Sometimes it's much shorter. It just really depends on the disease. This disease is so different and how it affects people. So we're going to kind of get to the root here of what the types of remission are and what you can kind of look forward to and hope for with this disease. And just remember, it is incurable right now. And that's why it's important. It's important to keep spreading awareness.
And raise fundraisers and money for a cure.
Yeah, because that's the thing. And it's like, I think when you compare it to something else that you go into remission and it's gone, this is not gone when you're in remission. It's very important to remember that. Let's start talking about, I have a few quick facts that I found from verywellhealth.com. And so it says, with medical and or surgical treatment, about 50% of patients with Crohn's disease will be in remission or have mild disease over the next 5 years.
A long time.
So yeah, 50% of patients, but that's with medical and surgical treatment. So, and or surgical treatment. So that's, you know, still, I think it can be better. And that's, again, keep raising those funds, guys. And then
treatments.
45% of those in remission will be free of relapse over the next year. Okay, not years, just over the next year.
Just one.
35% will have 1 to 2 relapses, and 11% will have chronically active disease. So it just comes back.
Yep.
So Mason falls into that 35% category because you have had about 1 to 2 relapses per year.
Yeah. But then, like last summer, I started getting a flare or something.
Yeah, you had a flare a year ago, and you had a flare in August of
Thankfully not this
2023.
year. Thankfully not this year.
So, yeah, you can fall in and out of remission.
You can be up here, and then you can be down there.
Yeah, because it's not a cure.
No.
And everything they're doing to treat this disease is not yet a cure. And so that's why it's important to remember,
if you do go into remission, by the way, it's you have to stay on those biologics. If you don't, you're going right back into a flare.
Yeah, and maybe not immediately, maybe you won't, but that's the other thing is sometimes you don't always feel the inflammation. You don't know what damage is being done until you do.
You realize.
And then it's like,
that's
great.
not good.
And you can't go back on the biologics all the time once you've come off of them.
Antibodies are really fun.
Yeah, study that one up. So just important little things. I mean, we have other discussions we've done on biologics and stuff like that. So
those episodes out.
Yeah, important to know your options and know why it's important to find something that works for you and to stay on it and not go off and on these different things. So let's talk about what is remission. And I want to mention that today, all of the information we're using was found on mycrohnsandcolitisteam.com and verywellhealth.com. So both of these were cross-checked with each other and referenced, and they both had the same findings.
They both checked each other out.
Yeah. One way to define remission is an improvement of symptoms, things like pain,
maybe
weight loss, joint pain. Yeah, amount of times to use the restroom.
Amount of times you go to the restroom. But when you're in remission, you can eat whatever you want, whatever the doctor says you can eat.
Right. And as long as you don't have trigger foods. Some of you, like Mason's saying, for him, he knows his triggers, which are thankfully really nothing right now. Yeah. So he's doing great. But for Mason, thankfully, so he hit that type of remission. Took a while still to get there. But the reason that type of remission, just an improvement of your symptoms, is important is for your quality of life. And
because it makes you feel better. Yes. And when you're in remission, an inflammation isn't doing as much damage to things like intestines or joints or back section or the eyes, the mouth. So remission not only makes you feel better, it's not doing damage. It's not doing as much.
Because this is only improvement of symptoms. So we haven't looked at inflammation yet. So this is just like
ahead of us.
Yeah, this is just like
I'm telling the future, guys.
Yeah. So this is just like I'm feeling better. Like, and that's kind of the first level you'll kind of get to. But we're going to go into more levels. This is just a broad description right now of what remission is. And the other one is results of labs and imaging tests such as colonoscopies. That's where it'll show levels of inflammation, and you start looking at to see if it's a little bit deeper of a remission than just feeling better, because it's possible to feel better and still have inflammation going on. So
how I was, remember when I went out to Remicade and I felt better, but the inflammation wasn't really clearing up. I kind of just I feel like I wanted to feel better. So kind of was feeling better.
You're also on steroids and methotrexate at the time.
Definitely doing something.
So it was always hard to know, like, what I think the steroids are kind of masking it a little bit.
They're kind of just making you feel better, but weren't really helping inflammation.
Yeah. So we're going to get more into the categories, because those kind of like we just discussed, kind of like a broad sense of remission here. But let's talk more about it. So the first category we're going to discuss is clinical remission. And that's what we were just basically talking about, the first one. That's where you feel good.
Better. Yes.
Yeah. Your IV symptoms are mostly gone, absent. And then the doctor might use scoring tools to also kind of assess where you're at in remission. And so for like Mason, they use something called the PUCAI, which is PUCAI. It's an acronym. And that's used for ulcerative colitis, but his doctors also use it for Crohn's disease. Yeah. It's a great,
I guess, depending on
depending on the doctor. And some doctors may use the CDAI, especially if you're in clinical trials. They're going to use that for Crohn's. most likely. They also look at patient-reported outcomes, such as your stool frequency and abdominal pain, like how you report it. So, like when you go to your doctor's appointments, they always ask you, these questions, and that's part of the PUCI, but it's also for them to see what you're telling them. Like, how many times do you use a bathroom in a day? And
kind
do you
of
have any pain?
kind of see if you're in remission or not.
Right. And so that's for their clinical remission. And so that's an important step, because just achieving that and feeling better is huge for Crohn's patients.
Remember when we'd go there sometimes and a lot of things would be good, and then you say, "Oh, he has joint pain though," and it's like, "Oh, you're out of 12 now."
Yeah, like you would
Whatever.
go from mild to moderate to like severe, like all of a sudden your score, just because something little changed. Yeah, it would really change it drastically, but that's how they kind of assess it. And so
it's important, so they can know if, maybe they need a different biologic, maybe they need steroids, maybe they need a different kind of treatment, maybe they need even worse, a surgery, which can help. But
so they start taking these things all into account, and they'll watch for this. So clinical remission is a huge goal for the patient first, because you just want to feel better. And so once you're feeling better, that's already a huge part. So
a clear launch.
Yeah. And then the next kind of levels of remission, we're going to talk about something called objective remission. And that's where you look.
It's objective.
Yeah, objective, because you look for signs. And so it's something you're looking for that you can actually measure and observe. So a doctor can measure these results, they can observe these results, and they can say, like, we have studied this and your disease has improved.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where that's at. But there's 3 types of objective remission, and they're all important. All of these are important.
Yeah.
So they are biochemical,
endoscopic, and
histologic.
You better not come here for pronunciation.
Right. We're just gonna
History,
call it that today. Yeah. And I think I've heard it pronounced. I know I've heard it, and I think it's histologic. Yeah. So it
might not be.
The first one we're going to talk about is biochemical remission. Yes. What it is, it's when they look at things like your CRP, which is your C-reactive protein. That's an overall inflammation marker in the blood in the body. So that's throughout the body. It's not specific to the GI tract. And then they look at the calprotectin test, which is a fecal test, which is very specific.
Very fun.
For the GI tract. Yeah. Very easy though.
Yes, it is. It is easy.
Yes. These are non-invasive tests. So these are easier than doing like a colonoscopy or something.
Oh, yes. Yeah. When are we going to talk about that?
That'll be next.
Oh, goody.
So yeah. So with biochemical remission, they will look at these markers to determine how much inflammation is going on. The only issue with something like CRP, since it measures the whole body inflammation, there's other things that can cause that number to vary. And there was one of the things you read, it says certain genetic differences can even reduce a CRP. And so it's not always the most reliable, but it's a great start. Yeah. So it's good to look at. So
like the starter.
So if you've already gone through clinical and now you're a biochemical and that all looks good, and like I think our doctor had called it lab remission. I'm not sure if that's what she meant.
Yeah, I've heard.
Or if it's just a separate one that our doctor has, because
maybe it's another different kind that we haven't heard of. Maybe it's just a different name for it.
Right. Well, because it's labs. It's just like looking at your labs and saying, biochemical. And so I believe that might be what it could be referred to as well. So then there's the next step, which is
endoscopic and histologic remission.
Right. And so endoscopic is used
colonoscopy.
Yeah, you do a colonoscopy and an endoscopy.
Colonoscopies and
maybe one, maybe there. But when you do your colonoscopy and endoscopy, they will look, and if there's no signs of inflammation or new damage, that could mean you're now in endoscopic remission.
And they also take a little sample,
which is going to be our next one.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So the next one, which is histologic, because histology is when you study cells
under a microscope.
So, like Mason was saying,
they'll take a little sample of
a biopsy,
and they'll look at it through the microscope to see if there's inflammation or things like that. So you're asleep, so it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
But the colonoscopies and
endoscopies are, you get
endoscopies,
a little bit
and
of a sore throat
yeah, you'll get a little
sometimes.
sore throat, and
But
then they'll take the biopsy along with it if they can.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they'll go in there and they always let us know that they got some pseudopolyps and they
Oh
got,
yes, this is wonderful to know.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. They'll show you pictures
And
and like horrifying.
my doctor was like, here, this is what it looks. I'm like, I don't want to see that. I'm good.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, because he'll be still under when they're done. They'll call us in and they'll show us all the pictures before he's awake and let us know what's going on. And so it's like, oh gosh, but it's good.
Just doing good now.
They show you everything, so it's all you're all aware. It's all learning experience.
Yeah.
So what they do is when they look at those, and if they say there's no signs of inflammation or damage under this microscope, this is like the ultimate kind of remission. So
You're in
histologic is
histologic.
like
The best of the best.
the best, yeah. And I think that they kind of just used to hope for symptom reduction, like clinical remission. And now they're realizing that the deeper they can get into remission, the less likely you are to have more flares. Yeah.
Which is good.
So that's why they're with these biologics, with everything they're doing now, they're not just settling for adjusting a diet so you feel better or taking a steroid just a temporary, this is like, what can we do to help this body get into a deeper level of remission?
There's actually one thing though about like, I guess histological remission or endoscopic remission, because you're in remission, but to get a colonoscopy or an endoscopy, you have to drink the fluid,
which we have a whole episode on our tips and tricks for the prep.
Yeah, and so it clears out your system.
Yeah,
but the only thing about that is it makes you go to the bathroom a lot.
Yes,
which is kind of weird because it can mess with things, I feel like. And the last time I did it,
cleans out all the good flora and the
so it can kind of put you into a smaller flare.
Yeah, for some, and not for everybody, but it did happen to Mason. We believe.
Because a few days after we did it, I kind of got back into a flare. So it's kind of just a little like, I don't really want to do that, but if I want to see if I'm in remission, sure. But it's just, I don't want to go back into a flare if I'm in remission.
Right.
It'd be so cool if there was just a different way they could see it. Maybe it's like,
there are ultrasounds, which we've talked about, which I would love to talk more about this, if that can look at your levels of inflammation and it's non-invasive.
Yeah.
So
it's so nice. And there'd be a less, you'd still be drinking this stuff, right?
No, you don't even have to.
Okay,
it can be done during a routine visit. They just put it on your tummy, look at everything. And
okay, so there's a way to do it without.
I mean, it's obviously a colonoscopy, and you're going to be able to get biopsies, and you're going to be able to see
That's
it
one
better.
Positive about
colonoscopies. So colonoscopies, yes, they are necessary, but you don't want to be doing those every 6 months. No. And so that's why they look at these other methods. You look at other factors. Mason has labs done every 4 weeks,
which is blood draws.
Yeah. So it's constantly monitored. And so there's other ways to keep an eye on it. But yeah, it is cool that there's new options coming out, so they don't have to be as invasive like that.
Someday in the future, they'll be able to take biopsies without colonoscopies or endoscopies.
Yeah, it would be cool.
That works like that.
And there's even new developments where you can wear like a patch, but it's a little bit thicker than a patch, but on like your arm, and through your sweat levels, they can kind of predict if you're going to flare.
Crazy. Through sweat levels.
Yeah. So that's pretty interesting too. And so let's talk about, there's a couple more names for remission that are not as widely used. These were just 2 we found, so we thought they were worth mentioning. And that's something called functional remission. And that's where you're just able to perform everyday tasks. So you're able to go to school, you're able to go to work.
Lift things.
Yeah. So it doesn't mean you are not symptomatic, but you're able to function.
Yeah.
And that's not as widely used, but it's just shows how important with this disease, remission really is about improving the quality of life and trying to make things just better. And
there's
so
the other kind, which is called surgical remission. I think that one kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah. Surgery.
Yeah. Surgery, which is an option that no one really wants to go to, but if it's necessary, it's important you get it done.
Yeah, because this disease can really take a lot of parts from you. And
because once you remove one section, it's going to go somewhere else.
Right.
And if surgery is the only way you can get it to stop, you're going to be removing a lot of different parts where Crohn's decides it's a good place to move. And
so you want to preserve all of that. So the longer you can stay healthy and keep that inflammation from ruining healthy tissue and ruining your intestines, the better. So,
Yes.
I mean, again, this is just our perspective. I know we're reading what we're seeing on here and what our doctors have told us, but these are all things that are important to discuss with your own doctors too, because surgery is definitely an option for some, and there's many reasons why you may have to have it. Like surgical remission, it's basically it's like a lack of active disease, like after a surgical resection. So they cut out the part that is inflamed and causing the problems, and they remove it. But that's not a guarantee. So you might go into a surgical remission after having that out, but there's no guarantee it's not going to come back.
Yeah.
Because that's what Crohn's does.
It can always come back.
Yeah.
That's how Crohn's is.
That's how it works.
Thank you,
So
Crohn's. Thank you for being like that. You never leave me
so that's
alone.
why it's like, even though we have so many better treatments, it's
we're
still
still
difficult. And we are still thankful for them, but they're suppress your immune system. They cause other side effects. And it's like, we just like to get something
It could be a quick, simple cure that
Yeah.
has no side effects.
Yeah. And there's different people working on different things, and some of them will call it a cure, but it's not ultimately a cure yet. It's they're all usually a type of treatment to make the symptoms go away and get that inflammation to go away.
A
So
cure is usually like something you just take once.
yeah, like,
You have
and
to take it for the
it's
rest of your
gone.
life.
Like, you wouldn't have to continue taking the treatment; it would be gone. I don't know. I guess that's the way we're defining it. But this is also all of this important, all this information that you've learned today. It's important for you guys to get your own information from your own doctors about your own remission journey, because they may have different terms for it. So they may be calling it something that you're going, you guys didn't mention that today. But so it's all different. And so it's just important for you to know, talking to your own doctor, where you're at in your journey. And also, if there's a plan in place, what kind of medical plan do you have? What does your doctor see for you? Is your doctor looking for histologic remission? Are they looking for clinical remission? And what are you as a patient okay with?
The doctors know what's best.
Mhm.
And if
Like-
they don't, just get a
Like, even for you, Mason, like, where are you comfortable? Would you be satisfied at a certain level of remission here, or would you always be hoping to get to histologic?
I mean, I'm pretty happy right now, but if
Mhm.
I could get to histologic, I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, I believe you're still in biochemical remission, because we did do the colonoscopy and endoscopy, and there was still signs of inflammation. A lot of it had cleared up. A lot of it looked better, but it wasn't. So he wasn't in endoscopic remission at that point. And so but he's doing great, and all signs, all labs are pointing like things are going really well. He's eating, he's gaining weight, he's growing.
Woohoo!
So yeah, he just had his well check this week with his pediatrician, and that went really well. So we were encouraged with that as well. We just always like to hear normal things
And encouraging things.
Yeah.
Don't say, looks like you have more inflammation.
Yeah. It's like, oh man, or it's like, oh
wow, you're doing good, buddy.
Yeah, or all of a sudden you're doing well and then you're not, and you have to go back in and explain, yes, I'm getting up at night. Yeah, I'm not feeling like I have pain. So it's always just positive when you have these visits and you're like, yay.
They're happy about it.
Yeah, and it's something else I think we will be important to discuss on future episodes. He also had a dental appointment this week. He goes to his dentist every 6 months.
Very good dentist.
Yeah. And the thing is, too, is Crohn's there's a lot of oral manifestations with Crohn's that people are not always aware of. So I think that'd be
a good one.
A good topic, too. I think that'd be something good to discuss. So
maybe I'll be next week's episode.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah. So that kind of ends our discussion on remission today. There's not a whole lot more to talk about, but we just want to give you guys an idea out there, explain it a little better, and encourage you to talk to your own doctor to find out what they consider remission, what they consider the levels. So make sure you're always talking to your doctor and staying in close contact to see where you're at. I think that can help, because I think a lot of it's confusing. You're just like, well, some doctors don't convey things as well. Maybe you don't ask questions because you don't know what to ask. And so this way you can find out, hey, where am I at in the levels of remission? So important to know. And because this disease does not look the same for everybody.
Yeah, it's different for everyone. Like
I've
said numerous times, and
it is
other videos.
Yeah.
But it is different for everyone.
It is. And so it's important for you to be aware of your own health, be aware of your own journey. And we hope we've been able to research for you today.
And answer some questions.
Yeah.
Teach new facts.
Yeah. And also, in kind of exciting news, his pediatrician is offering to be on our podcast. So we will have a doctor available. So if any of you
have any questions for us to
if
ask?
you have any questions that you'd like us to ask about chronic illness in kids, whatever it might be, we will have his pediatrician who's willing to talk about it. And I think he's way more entertaining than us.
Yes.
I think he'll be.
Totally, we're boring, right?
I know. I don't think he'll fall asleep or skip any of it. So he's a really cool doctor. So we're hoping to figure it out
and he
soon.
loves Disney, which is good.
He does.
He has Donald. His favorite character is Donald Duck.
Yeah. And so it's always fun. He's a pretty cool guy. We're thankful for Mason's medical team. That's for sure. He's got a great medical team. So with that, guys, hopefully this was informative and hopefully we've taught you guys something today, or at least given you some questions to ask your own doctors, things to ask about. And you can follow us on Team IB Determined at Instagram and follow our journey and see pictures. We have posted pictures from the proclamation at the city. Yay. So yeah, it was pretty legit.
It was.
Yeah, it was very exciting. I've never been to any of the city council meetings either.
No.
So it was and my parents came, so his grandma and grandpa got to be there, and his borrowed grandma, who we're thankful for. She's helped raise him as a grandma since he was little. So she got to be a part of it, and Mason's cousin and best friend got to be there. So it was really cool. Fun. Yeah. So we had a cool time.
Maybe next week I could show them the proclamation.
Yeah, I know. We'll have to have it ready because it will have Mason Harvey Day. Mason Harvey Day will have taken place the day before this airs.
Oh, cool.
So so Mason Harvey Day is on its way and we're so excited to celebrate. So you'll be able to look at Team IB Determined on Instagram and give us a follow or check us out because it's a lot. You can see all those pictures and
fun things.
Yeah, Mason Harvey Day.
On Mason Harvey Day.
Yep. And you can also follow the Reggie Project on there as well, which is for raising awareness for kids with other chronic illnesses, with IBD, whatever it might be. And you can also listen to us on any podcast station like Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and even on YouTube.
A recently added podcast was YouTube podcast, like she just said.
Yep.
If you want to watch us with sound and see us talk, see our beautiful faces. And
I know. Well, yeah, yours.
Both of us.
Both of us. Yes, you're so fortunate. Yeah, exactly. So fortunate to see us.
If you wanted to watch us and hear us, go to YouTube. And if you are on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to be notified every time we post a video, make sure to hit that bell icon.
Yep.
And we have been getting...
Yeah, we even had... Someone was pretty cool because they had mentioned that we were a help to them. And so it was like... So, I mean, like we always say, if it's one person, that's what counts.
We love hearing feedback from you guys.
And knowing that there's someone else out there who gets it, whether you're a patient, a caregiver...
supporter.
Yeah, that's why we do this.
Or someone who wants to learn about Crohn's disease.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of you are probably out. We're here on this is a Saturday afternoon, and this is what we're doing. And we spent the morning researching and, even part of yesterday writing this episode, getting it ready. So we put a lot of time into it because we really do care. And
it means so much to see you guys commenting.
Yeah. So keep it coming, keep commenting, keep watching, keep listening, and let us know if there's anything that we can talk about that would work for you guys.
And make you happy in the next episode.
Yeah. So with that, guys, thank you for listening.
Yes,
and
thank you so much.
We will see you all on the next episode. Bye.
We hope you will stick around, tune in, and reach out to us with your own journeys. We are excited to give you an inside view of what it takes to be a caregiver and what it's like to be a patient.
And most of all, we hope you'll maybe be able to play something you hear on here that might help you in your own life. Sometimes life changes, and it's all about how you handle the journey.